All right, guys, we're back. Let's talk about it. WrestleMania 41 Night 2 in the books as we finish things off here with a pretty interesting ending. We're going to talk all about it. I see your comments in the comment section. You guys hop on in. I know a lot of you already in the chat giving your thoughts on how this thing finished. And yes, we will absolutely talk about John Cena winning number 17 and why it was not exactly the way we thought he was going to win number 17. But we will talk all about it here as we get into this entire night. But again, guys, appreciate you as always jumping on. Let me know as you jump in your thoughts on tonight's action, which I can tell already. If you're not in the comments, it's quite a scene because I know that is going to be an ending that is going to be talked about quite a bit. And not just for the reasons as to Cena winning, but the reason, maybe what we didn't get and what the reasons were behind that. That's going to be more talked about maybe than anything. But all right, let's just jump right into it. We're going to talk about everything else on this card as we do each time. But yeah, this is, I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm going to give my initial thoughts here as I just finished watching this. Thought the match was fine. And I thought it was building towards that big, big, big moment, right? And we all know what that big moment was going to be. We're thinking the big moment was going to be The Rock, right? That was going to be that huge, huge moment. It didn't happen. The big moment was all about Travis Scott, really. And I think as we look at this, here is the way I'm going to kind of view it right now. The whole heel turn was really predicated on the idea that it was about the selling of the soul, right? It was about John Cena selling his soul to The Rock because Cody Rhodes wouldn't do it. That's what we thought, like at Elimination Chamber, correct? And I think, everyone's going to talk about like the sort of, I think that's going to be an interesting talking point here, if that's what we were led to believe. Now, as this comment says, he never sold his soul to The Rock. That's why he didn't come out. He never sold it to The Rock. Well, The Rock was a big part of this, though. I think we all can agree on that, right? Whenever this whole thing happened, it was really around that big stare from John Cena into The Rock's soul. I mean, that's really the visual that we all remember. And so I think for this, you were thinking if there was going to be a way that they connected it all together, it had to be at WrestleMania, right? On the biggest stage of them all. And thinking this would be the moment that they would kind of connect everything, even though we haven't heard a lot about The Rock and the promos and all that. All right, it's WrestleMania. You're going to have The Rock show up, and it's not just going to be Travis Scott, right? It's going to be a lot of different things where you just kind of bring everyone in. We said, could they have the interference like you had last year? We knew they weren't going to do it to that extent, but we knew there were some possibilities, right? And by the way, we mentioned all the Steve Austin possibilities during the week. Well, we knew that wasn't going to happen after Austin came out on the four-wheeler there before the main event. But I think what's going to sort of happen here and how we look back at this. Yes, John Cena played up the heel dynamic and he turned heel and he acted like a heel when he won the championship tonight. And that was fine. But the reason this felt like such a monumental turn for John Cena Elimination Chamber was this was sort of the idea that you were going to somehow connect it to The Rock, right? And that's why it felt like sort of that, the Hollywood powers here and everything sort of combining together. But then I think kind of what happened was it turned towards Cena versus the fans, right? And we started to realize, okay, they're not really tying The Rock into this now. Will it happen at WrestleMania? And it didn't. And so I think like it pretty much turned very quickly. And that's why for anyone who was saying, hey, this was going to be the plan for months and months and months. And I think they've tried to convince us at times that this was the plan, months in the making. I'll go all the way back to Bad Blood, right? Talking about all this other stuff. Well, you can't say all that and then not have one of the central figures here show up in The Rock. And so that I think is going to obviously be something that is talked a lot about as we come out of this is why was The Rock not there? We probably know the reasons why he wasn't there. But if you're going to play this out this way, you've got to also understand that there's going to be some criticism for him not being involved in this because that was seemingly the one glaring thing since Elimination Chamber that everyone has been talking about, which we knew he wasn't just going to show up every week on Raw or anything like that. But you felt like the payoff was coming tonight. And I think a lot of people were waiting for that payoff. And all you got was Travis Scott. Nothing against Travis Scott, but he is not, to The Rock's level when it comes to the wrestling part of this, right? Tying in someone like that who's a legendary figure in WWE. And so I think that is going to be something that, again, we're going to look back on this WrestleMania. We'll talk all about everything else. We'll kind of tie this WrestleMania up as a whole and mention all those things. But just having The Rock there, yeah, that was, I think, a big part of the story when they made the turn. And I mean, I can understand the reasoning as to why maybe you don't bring him there. I know, John mentioning in the comments, not going to take Cena's shine here for number 17. Sure, you can maybe make that argument a bit, but I just think there were so many people expecting it. And it's not as though, maybe WWE wasn't leading us in this direction. When they did what they did at Elimination Chamber, they were absolutely leading us in this direction. But I don't know. I think you're going to kind of look at it in terms of a disappointment here with the way the finish worked out. Because I think, again, John Cena and Travis Scott as the two-man team standing tall at WrestleMania is a different visual than John Cena and The Rock standing tall as the two-man team walking out of WrestleMania with the championship, right? And so it's just a completely different dynamic. And that's why, I think you're going to have some pretty underwhelming responses to that match, even though I thought it was building. By the way, we never expected this to be the fast-paced match like the Fatal 4-Way or anything like that. You knew they were going to build it to this big sort of slow, methodical type approach. Cena hits the big moves. Cody reacts, responds, counters, all this stuff. And yeah, that was kind of what you built towards. So, all right, we'll reset here for a second. I've given you my thoughts on The Rock not being there. I think it was important for the story for him to be there. He wasn't there. So now we got to figure out what story they're going to tell us moving forward. And maybe it is literally all about Cena and the fans now. Or maybe it's like, all right, when we get to the end of this thing, The Rock somehow comes back. That's where Cena realizes he's done this the wrong way. And that's really become the story now. And that's why I picked Cena to win. I said, this has become his story. It's not, about Cena winning the championship anymore. It's about, can Cena get back to being Mr. Hustle, loyalty, and respect, right? That's what they're going with. And it looks like right now that The Rock was not, it's not going to be involved in this anytime soon. Because if he's not coming back for WrestleMania, why should we expect him to come back on Raw tomorrow night? Why should we expect him to come back at Backlash? He's not going to, right? So I think that's going to be something. And look, let's talk about the Cody side of this too, right? Hey, the fans are booing Cody. Now, I don't think that was a huge surprise. We kind of know here, and Caleb brings it up. It wasn't a huge surprise to see some fans doing that. You got a little bit of that on SmackDown, actually. And you knew if it's Cena going for 17, you're going to kind of have a little bit of that, right? But that's why we said it was so important with the way they sort of structured this thing and the direction they were heading in. You wanted to try to remove as many possibilities of having people cheer John Cena as you could. But it was inevitable that people were going to cheer Cena. They wanted to see history being made with number 17 and all those things. And so I think it was going to always be difficult to not have anyone booing Cody. And I think it's maybe not about, hey, we really dislike Cody. It's more so we want to see Cena win the championship. And I think that there can be a difference there, right? And I feel like that was probably what you got this weekend, was more of that. We just want to see history being made. We want to see Cena, the cool heel now, maybe in some people's eyes. We want to see him win the title. It's not nothing against you, Cody. We just want to see Cena win the championship. We were more interested in the story. But you know what? I think that's where The Rock came into this thing. So, not having The Rock there, I don't think that helped people. So, I don't know. But, yeah, listen, you're not the only one. I'm going to bring up some of your comments. By the way, guys, best way for me to make sure I see your comments, leave a super chat. You don't have to leave a lot of money to do it. Just throw in a super chat that makes sure I see it. We got a lot of comments in here, a lot of people in the chat tonight, as expected. But, yeah, I think that's the thing, Ben. That's what I'm going to kind of go on here, too. I think it's the whole, long-term storytelling aspect of this. And maybe it's like, hey, this thing's way longer than we thought. But I just, if you're going to add The Rock back into the mix, and for all the rumors and reports out there, when The Rock came back for that SmackDown in New Orleans, it was all about, hey, maybe WWE had no clue that this was going to be the case, right? The Rock came in, said, hey, I'm going to do this, and maybe that's how it went. And from there, they had to come up with a solution. All of a sudden, it went from Rock's on SmackDown to Rock's going to be Elimination Chamber. Is Cody going to sell his soul to The Rock? All that happened so quickly that you do wonder how much of that was, I don't want to say this bad word because I think WWE may see this as a bad word, pivot. Like, did we get another pivot? It's like we got last year for WrestleMania 40. You don't know, but clearly, I can't imagine this was the direction that was always planned, was to say we're going to have our biggest show of the year where we've kind of put The Rock in the background for, a month and a half now, and not expect people to think he was going to come back. So, maybe, look, hey, maybe he does show up tomorrow. As Jamel says, maybe that's what happens. Maybe that's the big payoff, right? That could be a possibility, but I'm thinking, why would you do that? Why would you not just have him at WrestleMania? And maybe it is for simply, someone said earlier, maybe, I think John may have said it. Hey, maybe you just don't want him to take the shine away from Cena's moment at WrestleMania. Maybe tomorrow night is where the final boss comes back and all of a sudden, boom, we're ready to go again. But we'll see. We don't know that right now. So we don't know that. So it's really hard, I think, for fans to buy into it just yet, although that could certainly be a possibility. So, all right, guys, you're in the comments. You're giving your thoughts on the show. What we always do at the start. And based on your comments so far, I'm curious to see what it looks like. Give me your score, your grade for WrestleMania 41 Night 2. What are you grading it? If out of 10, give me an out of 10. If it's a letter grade, give me a letter grade. What do you got? And we will talk more about everything else on the show. But yeah, I think the whole not having The Rock there, Travis Scott, Cena winning was pretty, like we said, expected. I think that was always going to be kind of the way for this to go. But yeah, that's kind of where everyone's thoughts are. But let's get to Blake here. Great name. I agree with that. $10 super chat from Blake. So anticlimactic and underwhelming ending, even though we got the ending we expected with Cena and Cody. Love the Dom IC championship win and the women's triple threat championship match and the finish. Yeah, I agree with both of those, Blake. I think that, Dominik winning the IC title, we said that could be a huge moment. It was. Look at the reaction you got. You want to talk about the fans sort of flipping on someone. I mean, Dominik has been sort of, that momentum's been building with the whole tension with Balor and all this other stuff. It seemed pretty clear this could be a position they're in. And then Dominik does win the title. Crowd popped huge for it. Saw the reaction, like 30 Dom from prison to the Intercontinental Championship, right? It changed the man. So, yes, that's where Dirty Dom's at now. I thought that was a really good match, as we thought. I mean, Bron Breakker, another just incredible moment, right? But, yeah, the women's triple threat match, by the way, oh, my goodness. What a start. An incredible opener. Still think that was the match of the night. Just thought it was spectacular. I don't know if there was a close second. I think it was that good. So, yeah, and, of course, IYO retaining. We said, hey, I picked Bianca, but I said, if you really look at the way they're pushing this, IYO kind of has to win, doesn't she? Because, they're kind of bullying her and all this other stuff. And can you really let Rhea and Bianca get away with that? And the way they're kind of playing it up. So they went with that. And I applaud them for it. You can get to the Belair stuff with Jade and Naomi at some point, and you can get Bianca maybe being the person to dethrone IYO. But for now, I like the fact that, it was a good move, I thought, and it was just a tremendous match. I thought they were fantastic. All right. Let's pull up your scores here. Boy, we've got some scores coming in. Brandon's got a 2 on this. Voss here got a 6 for the show. Dead Man Walking going to go with a 4. G-Swole, a 5. Kevin, a 6. CP, a 7. Charles got a 9 on this one. We got 5, 2, 5. We got a lot of scores coming in there on that. So, all right, keep sending your scores in, guys. I see them in the comments. We're obviously not going to be able to pull up every single one of them, but keep sending them in. I see last night I saw a lot of average to above average scores. Tonight, I'm seeing a lot of average to below average scores. So I think, and this is probably the reason why here, right? Here's your comment. Rock not showing killed it for me. 7 out of 10. So probably not the only one that's going to probably believe it that way. I like this scoring system here from Slideaway. 3 Fruity Pebbles out of 5 on this one. So some of you are grading this based on Liv Morgan, which, hey, you have your right to do that on there. So Ronald's going to go $1.99 here on the super chat. Triple H set up a lot of his talent to be booed. So interesting comment there from Ronald. But I mean, it is kind of a dynamic where I think there was always going to be some of that with Cody tonight based on who he was facing. But yeah, I mean, they have pretty much embraced the idea that we're just going to let the crowd do what they want, right? We're not necessarily going to force things in every single scenario when it comes to making you cheer this person or making you boo this person. but sometimes it just turns out that way, right? So yeah, I think, like we said, Dominik's now the person that's getting cheered here. I mean, like, yeah, Dominik's getting cheered. Cody's getting boos. You've got other people. Obviously you had, a big return for Becky Lynch too, which, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I think everything kind of, we thought for the most part played out pretty well, except for a couple things, as we said, just with the main event. I just did not expect it to end that way. Not with Cena winning, right? I thought he would win, but didn't expect it to be that way without The Rock. But hey, TJ saying, you know what? Just going to go heel Cena. Give me a 10 on that alone. So, yeah, I mean, he's the champion now, right? This isn't a situation where, hey, I mean, Cena's just going to completely disappear. Like, you've got to have him maybe not there every week, but we know he's added a lot more dates to his schedule kind of going into this WrestleMania. We knew that. And so that's why you figured, hey, he's not going to be going everywhere as the challenger. He's going to be going places as the champion, which, of course, sets up an interesting dynamic next month. Perhaps Backlash in St. Louis. Are you going to get John Cena versus Randy Orton one last time with the WWE Undisputed title on the line? So yeah, they've got a lot to work with here, but it's just, I think people are going to be asking questions about The Rock, and I can't blame them for that. So yeah, there you go. All right, I'm going to try to catch up on some comments. Yeah, Charles, the only one. Yeah, you're not the only one saying that on The Rock. So all right, I'm going to bring this up real quick. So this was my first thought. So Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out, and as I said, we knew at that point he wasn't going to factor into the main event because they weren't going to bring him out to do that and then bring him back in the main event. That would have made a lot of sense. But, he comes around in the ATV, and as he's driving it down the ramp, I'm thinking, boy, I've driven these things before, and he's driving pretty fast, but this man is what he does, right? He's got the ranch. He's got all kinds of stuff. I mean, come on. This guy's driving them every day for hours probably. And so he's coming around that side turn, and boy, he just kind of goes right into that LED barricade over there. And yeah, Nick Khan quickly running over to check on that woman in the front row afterwards, because he was trying to make sure, hey, listen, we know what happened, but let me tell you, we got some great things we can offer you. Just please don't, whatever, right? So yeah, it was just one of those wild things. You were not expecting that with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Seemed like everybody was okay afterwards, but I did see that, Ken. That was definitely something that I noted immediately. So, so Dominik, from what I hear, again, I'm not watching the post show, the press conference right now, but I hear from Kevin here that Dominik's talking about the chicken tendies on the post show. Probably getting a lot of those tonight from Liv, I would think. So probably so. But Ronald bringing up the comment in the chat about the potential suing comment there. But all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to quickly run through everything as we usually do. We're going to talk about each match because there's some we haven't talked about yet. I'm going to give you quick thoughts on it, and then we will get back to all your questions and comments. If you're joining for the first time, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, turn on your notifications. This is what we do in the reaction shows. It's all about you guys. I give you some quick thoughts on each match, and then we turn it over to you. Your questions, comments, all that. Again, the best way to make sure we get into those is with a super chat. I will make sure we get to it if you leave a super chat. Lots of comments tonight. 300 plus of you here watching on YouTube and or X right now. So I appreciate you guys weighing in as always, and we're going to talk more about everything else, but I'm going to do the quick run through I usually do when we talk about all these matches. So let's jump into it. First match, like I said, I thought the women's triple threat match was outstanding. Match of the night, maybe. I mean, it's, probably not going to top Rollins, Reigns, Punk, but it's really good. I mean, it's close. Like, that's the closest one of the weekend probably for me for WrestleMania. I thought it was great stuff. Like I said, I feel like it was one where IYO winning logically made a lot of sense because she was kind of the person that kept being kind of overlooked in this whole thing, and to have her win in that fashion, I thought was great. And like I said, you can always get back to the Bianca stuff with Jade and Naomi at some point. And so I'm fine to be wrong on that one because I think IYO winning now sets up probably your eventual one-on-one with Bianca, I would think, to be the person maybe most likely to take that championship from her. But maybe not. Maybe Bianca kind of goes in a different direction. But I think this is where you get the full-blown Bianca Belair heel turn, right? I think this is where you get coming out of it, and that leads you to the next path there. So, yeah, IYO winning, great match. That all three of them, they're always delivering in these big spots. And Match of the night for me, no question about that. So, all right, the Sin City Street Fight. Drew McIntyre beats Damian Priest. Not a big shock there. Thought, they did their thing. They brought out all the weapons, brought out the tables, brought out everything you need to do, even brought out the selfie. Drew McIntyre posted that thing on X, guys. Within like 4 minutes, he had like 40,000 plus retweets, 100,000 plus likes. Like, it was incredible. But the man was bored at work again, just like he was last year at WrestleMania 40. And yes, Drew McIntyre getting the win. No surprise there. Thought it was a good match. Really what you expected. McIntyre getting a pretty convincing win there. And now we see if he gets into that picture, right? I mean, you're like, at this point, like, what's next for Drew McIntyre? I think that's a great question, because we thought tonight, we said that was a possibility. Do you tie him in with all this stuff with Rollins and The Rock and Cena and everything else? Didn't happen. So what's next for McIntyre? He's got to be world title material at this point. Whether does he go after Jay? Does he go? He's going to go after Cena. Doesn't make a lot of sense with that. But I think, McIntyre winning about what we expected there. All right. I don't remember the exact order after that, but I'm just going to talk about some of the other matches that we saw. Dominik winning. We mentioned that a minute ago. I think Dominik winning was the right move. I felt like you had to get the title off Bron. Him losing in a 4-way, not a surprise there, right? And so, I think it was just kind of one where they had to get the belt off Bron. Doing it in a multi-man match makes a lot of sense. And I think, now you've kind of got the scenario where, hey, what's Finn Balor going to do, right? Like, how does Balor kind of play into this whole thing? And I think that's where things are going to get really interesting now, because, you can play up the whole, do we eventually get the new Judgment Day member? Balor, we know, is kind of going to snap on Dominik for what he did. Tensions were rising between the two during the match. And then, of course, how the finish shakes out. So Dominik winning, didn't think they were going to put the title on Penta just yet, right? We just didn't expect that. I think certainly it's kind of a scenario now where having Dominik hold the title, fans are kind of turning a bit in Dominik's direction now, right? I think this is certainly a situation where you're going to look at this and feel like there's a lot you can do in terms of, how it plays out. So, but yeah, Bron, to me, I've said it before, guys, my thoughts. Like, I think now is kind of time where, all right, you got to put Bron into that picture, into the world title picture. And maybe that involves Jay, right? I mean, it would make sense. Go to something with Bron and Jay, given their history and all that. So, I think that's something that's going to be in the near future here for Bron. So, by the way, I just realized too, I put in the title WrestleMania 41 Night 1 reaction. Well, it's Night 2, so I'm going to update that for you guys. You know what we're talking about here on the show. But also, what else did we get here on the channel? Well, we got what else we get at WrestleMania? We got some other good stuff, because we know it was Joe Henry coming out and being the person that answers the challenge against Randy Orton. Maybe was not the person we expected. A lot of people thought it may be Rusev, right? We were talking about Rusev as a possibility. Clearly, they're going to hold him off. And yes, also here, hit the like button if you're jumping in here. Appreciate all the support. And again, I will get to your comments here shortly, but we're going to run through our quick thoughts on the matches, and we'll get back to everything you guys are talking about in the chat. But Randy Orton defeats Joe Henry. Nice spot for Joe Henry to, get a little shine here as the TNA champion. And he's someone that there was, what was that, Raw several weeks ago, a while back or whatever it was, that everybody thought he was going to be the surprise tag team partner for Jey Uso. Wound up just being Jimmy. Wasn't a huge surprise. Joe Henry comes in and they did their thing, right? You didn't think he was going to beat Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Once you realized he was the opponent, it wasn't going to happen. I did like the fact that initially, like, Pat McAfee's like, hey, so if Orton wins, does he become the TNA champion? I mean, in my mind now, we kind of have to look at it and say, maybe Orton's the TNA champ. But it's a nice spot for Joe Henry. Nice little shine on the TNA partnership that they have and all this stuff. So if you weren't going to bring back Rusev, I have no problem with Joe Henry being the guy here. And I know he takes the loss, but he didn't just lose to anyone, right? He lost to Randy Orton. So I think it's okay. Not a huge deal there in terms of, how it plays out there. I mean, I thought probably the route you're going to go, if you're not going to go, the route of doing something with bringing back a Rusev, like we said, Aleister Black, someone like that. So yeah, not surprised that you would try to do this again, kind of to add a little more to the partnership with TNA, but gives Orton a win. And I think that's where, like we said, Orton has to specifically turn his attention now to John Cena. I feel like that's inevitable with Backlash coming up. 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now? I don't remember the time frame for when that is, but yeah, I think that's probably your next move there. So, all right, elsewhere. What else do we have? We had AJ Styles and Logan Paul. Thought it was a good match, just as we expected, and just as we expected, Logan Paul gets the win. I mentioned the reason why I think Logan Paul is going to win is because I think he could certainly be one of the first few challengers for Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. Don't think he's going to get involved with John Cena right now or anything, but I do think that Logan Paul winning was the right move. AJ Styles kind of become, I think one of those guys that you can just kind of use in any spot. I don't know that AJ is getting, we saw it last year, right? I mean, he was the first contender for Cody last year. And so I don't know that you're going to get kind of going to get, AJ Styles back in that same role. And that's why I thought Paul winning was probably going to be what they did, just because he is a logical choice to have him against Jey in the next few months, probably, even if it's not going to be right away, but he, just gives him something to brag about. And that's kind of the MO for Logan Paul right now. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at with that. Good match though. Figured it would be. I mean, those two, always give us good matches. And so figured it'd be good, and it was. And then of course, the one we did not talk about much was Becky returning to team with Lyra Valkyria to beat Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. They're the new women's tag team champions. And, I picked Liv and Raquel to retain, but that's when we thought it was going to be against Bayley and Lyra. We did not think, that was going to be the team that we got, but then they did the whole angle with Bayley being attacked backstage, which, hey, people getting attacked in WWE and not knowing who it is, there's another story you can play out for the next 6 months. That's kind of where we are with that. So we'll see what happens with Bayley. But now, maybe that gives Bayley a little something. Maybe it was Becky, right? She can turn her eyes to Becky, even though I think Roxanne Perez is probably the person that makes the biggest sense for her to come up and kind of get that main roster call up. She didn't get her WrestleMania match like she wanted. She didn't get, kind of that spot she was expecting. So she comes up, attacks Bayley. Now they have no choice but sort of, pay attention to her and all these things. I think that's how they're going to go with it. But still, Becky and Lyra Valkyria, who is now a double champion. She's got the Intercontinental Championship. She's got the Tag Team Championship. They're calling her Lyra Two Belts. And well, anytime WWE puts two people together, we know what happens, right? Eventually, they got to break up. So when are we going to get that big Intercontinental Championship match between Becky and Lyra? Maybe it's not going to happen next week. Maybe it's not going to happen the week after. But we know eventually that's what we got to get to. So that's how it works right now in WWE. You got to eventually break up with your tag team partner somewhere, somehow. And so that's what we're headed towards. But for now, enjoy it because they're the tag team champions. Becky Lynch is back. And hey, gives you certainly a big boost in terms of star power. Not just in the women's division, but overall. So excited to see Becky back, and excited to see what they do with her now when it comes to this sort of next, part of this run that she's on. So, all right, and then that does get us to the main event, and we're gonna get back to what you guys are talking about because I know a lot of you guys are talking about the main event, and understandably so. But we got to catch up on some super chats. All right, Ken Dog, $2, appreciate it as always. Ken Dog, always a regular here. We do these, PLE reactions, so I appreciate that. Really do. You guys supporting the channel, hey, means a lot to me. I love talking wrestling. As I said, I love talking with you guys. We're going to try to do more of this live stuff moving forward. Just a lot more exciting than just the normal videos we do here on the channel. So, all right. Now, we go to Cole here. Not $10 super chat. Really appreciate that. So many Jay turning hints. Okay. Then he's got the Vanessa Hudgens wearing the final boss gear and then doing the You Can't See Me and a yeet. To just a total letdown, right? So, I get it. Again, not the only one, but it's going to be talked about. I'm kind of curious to see the reaction after we finish the stream. I know I've already seen some of it, certainly online, people kind of reacting to the finish and all this other stuff and all the possibilities we had in our minds. And maybe that wasn't exactly how it turned out. It's about as basic as it gets, right? Which sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. John Cena's a heel. He did something heel and he won the match to make sure he made history. All right, that's a pretty simple story, but it's also a story that you're telling without the context of knowing what you did to get there, right? Which was Elimination Chamber. That happened. Like it still exists. And so they can certainly use the excuse, hey, we can tell that story months down the road. This was about John Cena We can tell the story with The Rock way further down the road, and I'm sure they have to at some point. They can't just completely drop it, right? But it's still, you set up that expectation, and you should understand why people are going to be disappointed a little bit with that. So, all right, TriStar here, $5 super chat, and a great callback here. Did Nick Goulas book the main event? I don't think so, TriStar. But feels like when Tennessee in 2022, great start and underwhelming ending. That certainly plays into my other job in sports, so I can understand that parallel. But I was not the ending most people expected. That's for sure. So, all right, guys, appreciate all the super chats. Hey, flat out, you can tell me, hey, Blake, it was garbage. Hey, you certainly have your right to think that, and yeah, it wasn't what we expected. So I try to be optimistic, and I'm going to leave it to Jacob here, who says Cena is in the press conference right now. If Cena says anything, I assume someone's got to ask about The Rock in the press conference. You got to. So I would think that's going to be asked. So maybe you guys can sort of give me something on what they say in the press conference. But I assume that's got to be addressed. I don't know how it couldn't be. So, all right, another quick reset here. If you're jumping in for the first time, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Always appreciate you guys jumping in here. Whether you're watching, you can be watching on X, you can be watching on YouTube. We have a lot of fun with this. So I appreciate you guys jumping in as always and leaving your thoughts on what happened here tonight's match of the night. Give me those. We always try to get those in as well. We do this reaction show. What was your match of the night? For me, as I said, pretty easy. It was the opener. It was IYO, Bianca, and Rhea. I thought was easily the match of the night. Not to say there weren't some other good things on the card, but I just thought it was so good to start the show. And they delivered as we probably would have expected between those three. And I could probably say, if some people knew how the finish was going to be, they would have minded that being the main event maybe. So okay, we're getting some updates here on Cena in the press conference. So Jacob says he's going to field all questions, and they're asking about The Rock. And then Kevin saying Cena's telling everyone their questions are clickbait. Yes, they are. I don't care. They absolutely are. They should be. We want to know, John Cena, what's going on. So, all right. Of course, Jacob, he's not answering about The Rock. Of course he's not, right? Of course he's not. They probably like, you know what? Don't do that. But come on. Like, don't answer those questions. Just completely shut it down. So, Brad, you're asking the same question I think a lot of people are asking. Where's he at? And I know, like, wasn't there something earlier in the day that something about, like, hey, Rock's saying he's in Hawaii and all this other stuff. I know he's talking about the filming or something like that. We've been, we've seen that ruse played before where people are like, oh, hey, I'm actually here, but we know they're not. And so that was kind of maybe what people are thinking, that maybe he's not actually there. So, but I'm not sure about that. So, here's another good point. Here's a great point by Hardball here. Tonight's main event could have easily been face versus face. I think this is a great point based on how it played out. You know why? Because, okay, so hold on. I'm going to get to this before I give you my answer on that. Kevin also bringing up, don't worry, I'm not going to lose that comment here, Hardball. But, so apparently Cena said, tune into Monday Night Raw to see how he's going to ruin wrestling. Okay, well, that's a hook, but I mean, again, just not even mentioning the final boss, maybe. We'll get back to it. All right. So here's why I think this is so interesting with this comment. You remember we said, it was yesterday or Friday, that we said you could have certainly played this out a different way where Cena wins at the Elimination Chamber. You go into the first time ever, Cena versus Cody. You've got the star of today versus the star of yesterday, right? You've got Cody, the person carrying WWE right now. Cena was the person who did that for the longest time. Face versus face. And then this is where you do the big turn, right? Because think about the discussion we'd be having tonight if this is where you did the big turn with Cena and we didn't see it coming, right? I mean, that would feel pretty big coming out of it. And look, Cena winning 17 is big. It's huge. But think about how different we would be kind of looking at this right now. And so you still could have gotten away with it. Now, as I said, one of the things maybe why they did want to go that way is because, you would have had the huge split crowd. But here's my thing. Why would you be worried about the split crowd when it comes to these two, especially John Cena? Because why? I mean, that's the story of his career. Like, the guy always had a split crowd, right? And with Cody, who cares? Like, you still got some of those boos tonight. And so I don't know that it would have mattered either way. Who cares if one of them got booed a bit? So yeah, I think you could have done that, maybe done the turn here tonight, and then that sets you off in a completely different direction because it's like, oh man, like, oh shit, Cena just decided he was going to win 17 and he did it by any means necessary, right? We didn't see that coming. And so you could have done it like that. So, yeah, something to think about. All right. So Jacob says, so he did say he'll be on Raw to ruin it. Okay. So he's gonna be there to ruin wrestling tomorrow night. So all right. Yeah. We'll see if he can successfully do that. But okay. So yeah, I'm gonna watch the press conference after this. Again, I would love to do it right now, but I will go back and watch it to get some thoughts on this. So yeah, I mean, look, the biggest things coming out of this weekend, we thought, again, was maybe going to be The Rock getting involved somehow. But ultimately, I mean, what's going to come out of this? It's going to be all talking about really the Seth Rollins turn with Heyman. You're going to have, Cena winning 17 to make history, all those things. I'm actually seeing some clips now. Cena's throwing away the Cody Rhodes side plates on the title. What a heel move that is. Man doesn't care about side plates on a title, all this other stuff. So, yeah, I see some people bringing up the Instagram comment from The Rock where there were reports out there that he wasn't going to be at WrestleMania. And I think The Rock had responded like, don't believe any of that bullshit or something like that. Well, I don't, maybe now so. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I think that was it. Okay. So Jacob said the press conference is over. I just saw highlights on Twitter. I didn't see anything else, but all right. So the press conference is over. He answered 3 questions. 2 of them were clickbait. Boom. That's it. All right. Well, got to tune into Raw, right? That's it. All right, great. So man just won 17 and this is how we're doing it. Okay. So, yeah. Hey, Slideaway says, you know what? Let's think of this a different way. We are the heels. We don't mind playing the heels. So, we don't mind playing the heels, do we? All right. Yeah. By the way, what's next for Cody? And I know that was asked a couple times. Kevin, you asked that. Harbaugh brings it up. Yeah. What's next for Cody? I mean, you're not going to immediately come back to this, right? And I think, what was it? I think it was Kathy Kelly was in the parking lot. Cody came back after the show and, she wanted to get a word with Cody, but Cody just went on straight to the bus with Brandy and all that, knowing that you're fully expecting them to go to Cena versus Randy Orton, I would think, for Backlash. Yeah, I think Cody has to sort of be away for a bit. And I don't think that hurts Cody at all. Because remember what we talked about to start this show, people were bringing up the booze and all that. Well, having Cody maybe off to the side a little bit, eventually he's got to come back. Maybe we do Cody versus Cena again at SummerSlam, something like that. I don't know if Cody would be away that long. I think I'd be maybe a little surprised if it was that long. But, hey, we'll see. But, yeah, I think Cody kind of being off screen while you get to this Cena Orton stuff, which kind of sells itself, right? I don't think that's the worst idea to have Cody just kind of, because I mean, look what he did for a year, right? I mean, this guy was everywhere, not just being the champion. Like this guy's all over the place. So I've got to think that Cody steps away for a little bit here. Don't know if it'll be a Roman Reigns like absence here in terms of, maybe be extended that much like we saw last year after WrestleMania, but you do think that there's plenty to go to with Cena, as Hardball brings up here. You can go to Cena Orton, Cena Punk, like you've got all kinds of stuff you can do with John Cena now. And so, yeah, I think you've got plenty to work with. And yeah, I think that's kind of what you're going to do now. Because I mean, think about the 2 things you have on each kind of brand, right? Which I don't know. Is there a brand split anymore? Do we really even acknowledge this thing? People are going wherever they want to go. You've got the Rollins thing with Heyman, which certainly ties into Punk. You've got the Cena thing now as the champion, which we know is going to tie into Punk at some point with Orton as well. I'm curious to see where Drew McIntyre goes next. I mentioned that. Jay's the world heavyweight champion. He's got plenty of things to do with Gunther probably still. They're going to have the rematch. Why would they not? It's Gunther. We mentioned potential challengers. Logan Paul could be one of those coming out of this. Does Bron Breakker get elevated into that mix soon? So kind of looks like a pretty clear world heavyweight championship picture. But I think it's going to be a matter of, what do you do next with everybody else, right? Because with Reigns too, right? I mean, do we expect Reigns to be there regularly? Because you feel like that's something they've got to get to, right? They've got to get to Reigns and Rollins and Punk somehow in some combination again, knowing the big turn and everything that took place. Like we don't even have the bloodline to look at right now, right? So people bringing up, hey, you've got like Solo and all this other stuff. Like we don't even have that kind of like last year. You had that sort of dynamic of what's next with the bloodline. You don't have that anymore. That's not for the first time in how many years? Like the bloodline is not even a thought coming out of WrestleMania. And so that's something that feels a little bit different. But you are kind of depending on these two big, massive sort of moments with the Rollins turn with Heyman, and you've got Cena winning 17. Those are your two biggest things coming out of the show. And so, and yet we say all this stuff, and we still don't have a damn clue who El Grande Americano is. We still don't know who it is. I'll tell you who I'd call to find out. I'd call Chad Gable. I think he's really been on this. I think he knows. I think he knows who it is, but he's not telling anybody. So, all right, in all seriousness, let's see what else we've got here. Lorenzo brought this up earlier, and I'm going to pull it up, talking about the Cena win. Cena was a heel, and he won like a heel. Kicked Cody right in the balls and said, hey, I'm going to hit you with the title, and that's it. And so he won like a heel, and he's just got to keep embracing that, because that's the only thing I think is going to carry this thing forward, as we said. I think that's going to, kind of be something where you just got to keep having Cena lean into this. And think about, here's something too now with this, and I will say, if you want to be optimistic, which, eventually I think that we can be optimistic about this. The atmosphere next month in St. Louis when Cena and Orton face off, if that's what we're getting, I just feel like I'd be surprised if we didn't get that. It seems like the perfect place to do their maybe final match together. The atmosphere in St. Louis is going to be incredible. I mean, we talk about back in the day, Cena going into like hostile environments, right? Think about like when he had the stuff with Edge, when they had the match in Toronto. Was that Unforgiven? They had the TLC match, something like that. It all runs together for me at this point. But crowd was incredible. They were all hating on Cena. Cena went into Philadelphia for ECW One Night Stand. Think about the match against RVD and all that, like the crowd environment. When he goes into St. Louis, Randy Orton's town, like it's going to be tremendous. And so it's going to be an awesome spectacle, everything. He's going to play up all the heel stuff and everything like that. But like I said, it's going to be hard for us to just sit here and act like the Rock thing just didn't happen, and they're not going to address it in the press conference. Triple H, I assume you guys can tell me, is he going to be in the press conference tonight? I'm sure he's got to probably answer those questions. Somebody's going to ask about it, I would think. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that's probably where we're headed with Cena. He's going to keep embracing this heel stuff, and now we know for sure that we just cannot expect it to be anything more than Cena right now carrying this thing. I don't think he's going to have Travis Scott with him in every show, right? So it does take away, and when you build up such a huge moment, like that is an all-time moment in WWE history. We can't take away the idea that when Cena turned, it was an all-time moment. It's always going to be an all-time moment. But there are going to be those discussions about what happened next, right? And let's see. Well, we saw kind of what happened over the past month or so. And I don't know that it was exactly what people expected, but now we wait and see what else I guess they've got in store for us. So, that's kind of where we're at. So, there you go. Jacob's going to go with this theory, and look, I'm fine with this theory too. Rock's going to make Cena keep the belt until he gives it to The Rock when he goes out. Yeah, so he's like, just keep sending Travis Scott to kind of be the person that Rock's like, hey, you go do the heavy lifting for me. And we knew we were going to get Cody versus Travis Scott at some point, like at WrestleMania tonight. That we expected, because everybody wanted to see the Cody payback after Travis Scott, busted his eardrum and all this other stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the direction it seems like we're headed in. So just to kind of play it up that way. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. But again, I don't think anyone should feel bad about being disappointed that The Rock wasn't there. I don't think WWE should be making anyone feel bad about the idea that The Rock wasn't there, because I just think the way you set it up, there are going to be those inevitable questions, right? And so, yeah, we're going to tune in to see how Cena ruins wrestling, and that's what it comes down to. So, that's the story they're telling coming out of this. So, I see some people responding to the Cena saying he's going to ruin wrestling, and I see a lot of people responding saying that, well, The Rock's already done that, so Cena doesn't have to do that himself. So I don't know. We'll find out. But okay, what else you guys got? We're 45 minutes in here. Always appreciate you guys. Any questions, comments, send them in. As you know, we again have fun. It's WrestleMania 41, night 2. We're reacting here live to everything that took place at the show. And give me how about this? Give me your overall grade for WrestleMania 41, period. So night 1, night 2. You've got to combine the two together. Give me a score. Give me a grade. We've graded each individual night. As I said, last night was kind of a, you guys were like, hey, that's an average to above average show, especially based on the ending. And that's the biggest difference, right? Easily, if you go back and watch our show last night, watch our show tonight, the biggest difference was the ending. One felt like a huge kind of, defining moment. The other was a huge defining moment with some disappointment added in. And so, that's what this score can do for, I think, kind of looking at it as a whole. So, all right, Jacob's going to go an 8. Moise is going to go a 5 out of 10. C- from Hardball here. Slideaway is going to go 3.5 out of 5. Robert's going to give it a B. Ricky's going to go with a C. Blake's going to go 7 out of 10, or a little B- action. Rob's going to go with a D on this one. So, all right. I mean, that's about what you expect, right? Kind of in that range of things. So, yeah, I get it. I think the matches you're going to remember most from this WrestleMania, the main event of night 1, Rollins, Punk, and Reigns, and to me, the opener of night 2 with IYO Sky, Bianca Belair, and Rhea Ripley. So those are going to be the ones that are talked about the most. You had some good matches elsewhere. Again, I thought the 4-way tonight was good. Thought, that there was good stuff. But, Jacob Fatu, I thought Jacob Fatu LA Knight was good. I probably like Charlotte and Tiffany more than most people seem to. I didn't realize there was a little bit more backlash to that match than I would have expected, but I thought it was fine. In terms of, maybe they were like, well, this is kind of clunky at times. I'm like, but that's okay. I think with those two, like, I don't need everything to just be completely crisp. I'm okay just having some of those moments where it's like, hey, this is a real struggle for these two. And you think about kind of the personal nature and all that. I didn't hate that as much, maybe, as some people I think have seen out there. But yeah, I think, sure, here's the best point probably. And by the way, Robert, I'll give you my grade in a second. So, compared to last year, it just wasn't gonna hit, right? And we said too after last night, it seemed like the way they had set it up, tonight was clearly the night where you had the higher ceiling probably for, getting the most out of what you expected from a WrestleMania. Last night felt like a night where, all right, if you combine the two shows together, let's say if this was a one-night WrestleMania and you put all the matches on the card, and let's say you want to just build up as you went along, there are a lot of matches on last night's card that probably are like, they're your undercard type matches that you're building up to, those big, huge ones, like whether it's the women's championship tonight, whether it's the main event, ones like that, right? The Becky return, the Randy Orton Open Challenge, like those were all kind of the big ones. And so it just wasn't going to compare to last year. You were never going to top the main event from last year. There was no way anything was going to do that. And so maybe in hindsight, like, it was going to feel like a letdown no matter what. But it's just, again, I don't think you can just let them necessarily just act like the Rock thing didn't exist. And so I don't know. That's just me. But we'll think more about it. We'll talk more about it. So we'll see. Samuel's going to go here. Cena said he was ruining wrestling, so why cry about the ending? Let's see what happens next. Yeah, I'm going to go 6 out of 10. I think probably for me, I'd probably go in that 6 to 7 range. I think that's about right, because I don't want to downplay some of the stuff. I'd probably maybe go more like a 7, to be honest with you. I think that's because there wasn't anything that I just actively hated on either night. I just thought it was one where you had like that solid action. You had some good matches. You had a couple, I think, great matches. But really, like I said, I think the thing is really going to come down to the endings for both nights. And so you had such a high on night 1 with the Rollins and Heyman thing. And then Cena winning is a bit of a high, but it just came at the expense of, like we said, everything with The Rock. And so, I think, that's my thing, Rob. It's like the Rock tie-in would have given the show the ending it needed. Yes. Like, even if the man just shows up and stands on the stage after Cena wins, right? That may be enough. Like, that truly may be enough for me to be like, all right, yeah, that's fine. At least we know that they're pushing this forward, right? We know they're pushing this partnership, this connection they have forward. But maybe Travis Scott was like, maybe Travis Scott was this sort of middleman here. He's the guy that, not sure why, but maybe that's it. Maybe they're just going to play off that until eventually The Rock comes back and Travis Scott does the dirty work, and that's what we do here. So that's it. So yeah, there you have it. So, all right. What else you guys got? I know you've asked some questions. Any questions, comments you want to have? We're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. We'd like to always keep this under an hour. But yeah, I know there's plenty to talk about coming out of this. I do see Triple H has been making a few different comments here. I'm going to give a couple that he mentioned. So I see this one out there. Triple H says that WrestleMania 41 was epic from start to finish. Also a comment, I don't know if he was asked this, but here was a response that he had, I guess something, quote, "Don't worry, Bayley will be just fine, true pro." So I guess people were asking about, Bayley being pulled from WrestleMania, Becky being inserted. To me, it's like they're not going to let this thing go with Bayley. She's going to have a big story coming out because, she's got to, right? So, yeah, I think Bayley's going to have a big story coming out of this. I don't think anybody should be worried about Bayley. They're not just going to drop everything because she got attacked backstage. A mystery attack. Everybody loves them some mystery attacks. Triple H does. We know that. So, it's fine. He was also asked about Joe Henry. Quote, "Right thing, right moment, right time." So, Joe Henry, that's your explanation on getting him to the mix. So, yeah. I don't, this comment right here, I think, is not that far off. We've been taught that everything counts except for when it's The Rock. I think that I can't argue with that. Yes, like even though like the little stuff in the backstage area, all these little tiny hints that they drop. Think about the Seth Rollins stuff, right? Think about last night, all the little things we brought up, but they were putting into all this stuff, whether it's Seth Rollins sitting with Paul Heyman at the Hall of Fame, all this. Those are the little things that matter. But, we try to pick apart the stuff with The Rock, and it just didn't pay off tonight. Maybe it pays off tomorrow night. Maybe he shows up tomorrow night. We're doing a live stream after Raw, maybe. And we're like, hey, look at us. we should have known that the final boss, he listened. He listened to the outcry, and he decided he's there. We'll find out, but I'm not sure. So, okay. Hardball asks here, how would you like to be a mastermind and not oversee the final completion of a master plan? I mean, that's I can't argue with that question, right? Can't argue with that question at all. So, all right. By the way, shout out to Jacob here. Thanks for the service. Yeah. Hey, I really do want to do these live streams more often for you guys. You guys were giving me the hell yes last night at the end of that one to maybe try to do this a lot more during the week where we kind of talk about the news and rumors of the day in wrestling and WWE specifically, obviously. And we do that moving forward because these are a lot more exciting. Of course, I'll still do my usual videos with my little, commentary, 10 to 15 minutes or so on certain topics and storylines. You guys know I love those. That's what this channel was founded on. But yeah, I like doing the live stuff. So maybe we evolve more, do some more live stuff, chat with you guys about whatever's going on each day. And I'm not against it. So again, if you guys are up for it, keep giving me the hell yes and all that stuff, and we'll keep doing it. So Triple H's comment on the Raw after Mania tomorrow. Here's the quote I see making the rounds on Twitter. "It's going to be big and a lot on it. So it's going to be big and there's going to be a lot on it and it's going to be exciting." Well, I mean, that doesn't really give a lot away, I guess. So, doesn't really give a lot away. So we'll see. All right. Ken Dog asks here, do you think Breakker lost because he's gunning for Jey Uso? Yeah, I think Breakker and Jey is just a logical thing to get back to because they do have the history with the Intercontinental Championship, those matches they've had together there. I've got to think that is going to be a match they have. Now, the question is, you do it again. You have Jey beat Braun again. But I think it's just hard to keep Breakker away from the world title now because I feel like he is like graduated, right? And there's nothing wrong with being the Intercontinental Champion, but the guy is just he's on another level. I mean, look at everything he's done. I mean, he is one of the best prospects for that age they've ever had. And I don't say that to exaggerate. Like truly, he's one of the best they've ever had in terms of that age being able to do the things he can do. I mean, he's a Steiner. We get it. But still, I think you gotta throw him into the world title picture. Because we know that guy's main eventing WrestleManias 5 years down the road, probably, maybe sooner, right? I mean, that's the honest truth. So, yeah, so we'll see on that. But it's a good question, I think, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, look, here's a good point, too. Like G-Swell brings up, hey, if you do the Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton match tonight, that's probably also one we're talking about and saying, man, what a payoff that was, because those two together, I mean, it's been great. And so we would have added that to mix and said, all right, bump that score up another one, because those guys kind of went all out, and this was kind of the big feud finish and everything they were going to have. So that's another great point on that. Absolutely. But, not to knock Joe Henry, but this wasn't Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, without a doubt. It was not that. So, yes, and I do think KO he's really injured. Yeah, and it's brutal, because Michael Cole said it again tonight. Like, he's probably out a year, and that's probably best case scenario when you talk about a neck injury like that, neck surgery and all that. I mean, we're talking about Kevin Owens maybe, hopefully, being back for next year's WrestleMania, but even that seems like that may not be in the cards. So, yeah, it's just that's brutal for a guy. I mean, when you think about all he put into the story and everything that they've been building with Cody and Orton and all this over the time, I mean, absolutely, that's brutal for him, for sure. So, no doubt. All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're about to hop off. I appreciate you guys interacting as always. I know a lot of this was kind of a little bit more, criticism than maybe you're used to here. Sometimes we just try to be optimistic, but I think all the criticism is warranted when it comes to the Rock stuff, because I just don't think you can go into this and expect people to not be disappointed that you don't get the Rock, when this entire moment was kind of built on the Rock. Not just Cena winning the title, but Cena being this John Cena. It was built around the Rock. Like, that was why did Cena decide to make that choice? And why was he standing there with the Rock? It'd been different if Cena turned and the Rock just walked away and they had no interaction or anything like that. But they left together, right? And so not to have the Rock here is going to feel like a big disappointment for some people. Travis Scott is not a worthy replacement to, for the Rock. It's just a different level. No matter how successful Travis Scott is, he's not known in the professional wrestling circles. And so, therefore, it's going to feel like a bit of a stretch to kind of have that as the substitute. But we see where they go next. We wait and let it play out, I guess, and we'll see if John Cena ruins wrestling tomorrow night on Raw. If he does, we may not do this channel anymore. Wrestling may be done. John Cena may finish wrestling good once and for all. But I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll talk about it, though. Again, guys, I appreciate you. I'm sure there is a good chance I will probably do a video tomorrow, a little bit more structured thoughts on the whole Rock situation and John Cena's win and all that. But who knows? We may also try to do something live. If we don't do something right after the Raw, after WrestleMania tomorrow night, I may do it the following morning. And we may try to get a little more of a regular routine doing these live streams throughout the week, because you guys seem pretty receptive to it. So if you want more of them, I keep saying, give me the hell yeah in the comments. But don't drive the four-wheeler like Stone Cold Steve Austin did tonight. Yes, that's my advice. But all right, guys, listen, I appreciate you as always. And a lot of interesting stuff coming out of WrestleMania. Some of it we expected, some of it we did not expect. But we're going to be here to talk about it. So again, do me a favor before you hop out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications so we do these live shows and when new videos are posted on the channel. I appreciate you guys watching as always, and I'll talk to you soon here at Wrestling Reaction.